Good evening and welcome to Global Lens News. I'm Sadia Afzal. Imagine waking up one morning to find that products from dozens of countries have suddenly become more expensive to sell in the United States. For some businesses, it could mean losing millions of dollars overnight. For consumers, it could eventually mean paying more for everyday goods. And for governments around the world, it could trigger a chain reaction of negotiations, retaliation, and uncertainty. That is exactly why the latest US tariffs have become one of the biggest economic stories in the world. But what are these tariffs? Why has the United States introduced them? Who benefits, who loses, and how could they affect ordinary people, even those living thousands of miles away? Let's break it all down. A tariff is simply a tax placed on imported goods. When a company brings products from another country into the United States, it may now have to pay an additional tax before those goods can be sold. The goal is usually to make imported products more expensive so that businesses and consumers are encouraged to buy products made inside the United States instead. Supporters say this helps protect American factories, creates jobs, and reduces dependence on foreign manufacturing. Critics argue that tariffs often increase prices for consumers and can damage relationships with trading partners. The latest round of tariffs affects imports from many countries across different industries. While the exact rates vary depending on the country and the product, the message from Washington is clear. The United States wants to prioritize domestic manufacturing and reduce trade imbalances. The administration argues that for years, many countries have enjoyed unfair advantages by exporting large volumes of goods to the United States while maintaining barriers that make it harder for American products to compete overseas. According to officials, these new tariffs are designed to level the playing field and encourage companies to invest more in American production. Not everyone agrees with that approach. Many economists warn that tariffs rarely affect only foreign companies. In reality, the businesses importing those products usually pay the tariff first. To recover those additional costs, many companies eventually increase prices for wholesalers, retailers, and consumers. That means products ranging from electronics and machinery to clothing, furniture, and household goods could become more expensive over time. Large retailers may try to absorb some of those costs, but smaller businesses often don't have that luxury. If their expenses rise significantly, they may have no choice but to charge customers more. Another major concern is the possibility of retaliation. History shows that when one country raises tariffs, other countries often respond by imposing tariffs of their own. This creates what economists call a trade war. During a trade war, exports become more expensive, businesses lose access to important markets, and global supply chains become disrupted. For example, if another country places tariffs on American agricultural products, US farmers could find it harder to sell wheat, soybeans, meat, or other goods abroad. That could reduce exports and hurt industries that depend heavily on international trade. The impact goes beyond the United States. Countries whose exports rely heavily on the American market may experience slower economic growth if demand declines. Manufacturers might reduce production, delay investments, or even lay off workers if orders fall sharply. Financial markets also pay close attention to tariff announcements. Whenever governments introduce significant trade restrictions, investors begin reassessing future economic growth. Stock markets often become more volatile because businesses face greater uncertainty about future costs, profits, and international demand. Companies that depend on global supply chains are particularly vulnerable. Today, a single product might include raw materials from one country, components from another, assembly in a third country, and final sales in dozens of markets worldwide. When tariffs interrupt any part of that chain, production becomes more expensive and more complicated. Some companies may decide to move factories to different countries that face lower tariffs. Others may increase automation or shift suppliers altogether. These adjustments don't happen overnight. Relocating manufacturing facilities can take years and require billions of dollars in investment. Until those changes occur, businesses often have to absorb higher costs or pass them on to consumers. Supporters of the tariffs argue that this short-term pain is worth the long-term benefits. They believe stronger domestic manufacturing will create better paying jobs, improve national security by reducing dependence on foreign suppliers, and strengthen America's industrial base. Recent global events, including supply chain disruptions during the pandemic and geopolitical tensions, have convinced many policymakers that relying too heavily on overseas manufacturing creates economic risks. Building more products at home, they argue, makes the country more resilient during future crises. Critics, however, say tariffs are an inefficient way to achieve those goals. Instead of helping everyone, they argue, tariffs often increase inflation by raising prices across the economy. Businesses that depend on imported materials may become less competitive internationally because their production costs increase. Consumers ultimately bear much of the financial burden through higher prices at stores. Some economists also worry that prolonged trade disputes can reduce global economic growth by discouraging investment and lowering international trade. The world economy has become deeply interconnected over the past several decades. When major economies introduce new trade barriers, the effects rarely remain confined within national borders. Shipping companies, logistics providers, exporters, manufacturers, retailers, financial institutions, and consumers all become part of the ripple effect. There is also a political dimension. Trade policy is no longer just about economics. It has become closely linked to national security, technological leadership, and geopolitical competition. Governments increasingly view critical industries such as semiconductors, artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, pharmaceuticals, and advanced manufacturing as strategic sectors that deserve greater domestic investment and protection. The new tariffs reflect that broader shift in thinking. Whether they ultimately succeed depends on several factors, including how businesses respond, whether trading partners retaliate, and how consumers adapt to changing prices. Some analysts believe that tariffs will encourage more domestic investment and strengthen American manufacturing over the next decade. Others believe the increased costs and reduced trade could outweigh those benefits, slowing economic growth both in the United States and globally. The reality is that the full impact will likely take years to become clear. For now, businesses around the world are closely watching developments. Governments are reassessing their trade strategies, and consumers may gradually begin noticing changes in prices for certain imported products. Trade has always been one of the foundations of the global economy, connecting producers and consumers across continents. Decisions made by one major economy can influence factories, farms, ports, and financial markets around the world. The latest US tariffs are another reminder that economic policy doesn't stay within national borders. Its effects travel through supply chains, international markets, and ultimately into the lives of ordinary people. Whether these tariffs become a turning point for American manufacturing or a source of higher costs and greater trade tensions remains to be seen. One thing is clear: the decisions being made today will shape global trade for years to come. If you found this explanation helpful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think tariffs protect local industries, or do they simply make life more expensive for consumers? We'd love to hear your perspective. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.